How's everybody doing today? My name is Ken, and this is Brian. This is Clicks and Bricks from Hosterian. This is our weekly 1 hour podcast. This is our episode number 2, so super excited.
Yes.
And we start off every episode with Between the Cubicles. And today, what's hot in the news, and we're going to try to stay away from politics and religion. So today, just a remembrance of Alex Trebek, right? So he was the host of Jeopardy. He passed away this week, unfortunately. And do you have any fond memories of Jeopardy when you were a kid, Brian?
Besides the fact that we really wanted to be on there.
You really wanted to be on there? You
I
thought
wanted
you could do good?
so bad. I knew I wasn't gonna do good, but I wanted to go anyway, just give it a shot. Because I just thought it'd be cool to be on TV and like a chance to try to win money. I used to love watching it.
Yeah.
Which one of your most fondest memories about Jeopardy?
So Jeopardy was never one of my favorite shows at all. But when I was a kid, there was a whole 3 channels or 4 channels on TV, and Jeopardy was, kind of like a after dinner kind of show that would come on every now and then, and reruns and stuff. And I remember, if I knew an answer, I felt really, really smart. Like anytime I knew.
The rules were so fun, man.
Yeah. So and then spinning the wheel and all that stuff, and it was just a good show. I don't know how long it ran for, but
good question.
I have fond memories of seeing Jeopardy, even though I wasn't a fan. It was part of my life, kind of just in passing. So, and when somebody like Alex Trebek passes away, everybody takes a big hit. So, because we all felt like he was part of our family. We grew up with him.
Right. Just like you said, it was right after dinner. So, I remember watching it at my grandparents' house, or I never at my house. It was always at someone else's house when I watched it.
Right.
So I was like being watched by my grandparents or my aunt or uncles or something like that. And since I'm pretty young compared to all the other people in my family, so I couldn't wait to see. I can be smart now, right? I can play around in this little game, and I have my chance to shine. Yeah. And I never did shine. I never shined at all. But it was still a fun memory for me. So how about a quick little moment of silence for Alex Trebek?
Well, since this is live and it's a podcast, I think we can do a quick little 5-second silence.
5 seconds, we do that. Count us off
for Alex Trebek.
We can do that. All right.
All right. Alex Trebek, thank you for all the years of great entertainment and keeping America educated in the form of questions.
And keeping families connected.
Yes. So what is our topic today, Brian?
Our topic today is buying ads versus organic reach.
Buying ads versus organic reach. And I think both of them are important. And Brian and I have been elbow deep in organic reach for the past month right?
Yes, but and what's crazy too is that even though we've been elbow deep in the organic reach, you're still doing buying ads or buying leads.
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever get away from buying ads or buying leads, right? I think that's going to be just part of the business. We look at all of those individual, you call them funnels or silos or workflows, whatever application you use to track those leads.
Right.
All of them call it different stuff, but they're just different top of the funnel activities. So
and you have to have more than one.
I believe you have to have as many as you can get because you never know when one of them is going to dry up.
Right. Well, one thing I definitely know is that one will dry up. You don't know when.
Or they'll all dry up.
You don't know when. You don't know how. You don't know any of that stuff. But what we know is that at one point, one will dry up. And so to your point, it definitely makes sense to have multiple.
So my best on drying up 20 years ago, 1999, selling web hosting, selling websites. I mean, you would have to literally be an idiot not to be able to sell websites. If you could pick up the phone would just ring all day long, right? So we just literally had the Yellow Pages ad, and that was the Yellow Pages ad is top of the funnel activity, right? It's if somebody's looking for you, they have a place to find you. This is pre-Google, pre all those things. So there wasn't a whole lot of places you could go to buy a website and things like that. So literally, it took about an hour to close a sale in 99 for a website because, you had to ask a lot of questions and stuff like that. And that was just the initial sale.
A lot of education probably too, right?
Yeah, and, in 99, it took about an hour to close each deal, to get the paperwork all done and get the process started. And, I was selling 10 sites a day. So, I mean, just every single day it was, I could, as soon as I could get one person off the phone, I grab the next call. So even when things are going great, right? Like you just constantly picking up the phone, taking orders. You have to look for other things because that is wildly not the case today when you're selling websites, right? The phone isn't just constantly ringing to sell websites today.
I think that's probably something that a lot of business owners fall into. When things are going great, the thing's going to be like this forever.
Right.
Right. And that's a fallacy. Things change all the time. So again, driving home your point, you have to have multiple ways to do what you're doing. You can't put all your eggs in one basket, right? Because that basket could dry up and break and fall, and now you're like, what are you going to do then?
Right. So for the past couple of weeks, we've been asking people questions, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and let us know. But Brian's been talking to people and asking questions over the past couple of weeks on these topics, versus buying ads or buying leads versus organic reach. So what's the first question you have there, Brian?
Actually, before we go to the question, I want to talk a little bit about the difference. And like what like some pros and cons, and kind of just wrap up. Because I mean, there may be some people that are kind of confused on what's quote unquote buying an ad, right?
Buying an ad or buying leads?
Buying leads.
Right. So I look at buying leads in two different categories. I look at one, just straight up buying a lead from a resource. So one of the resources that we use is bark.com. And you can go on Bark and you can create your profile and then buy leads. And actually you buy tokens, and then with those tokens you can trade them in for leads. I'm not a big fan of that kind of system, but it is what it is, and it works really well. But somebody goes to Bark and they say, I'm looking for web hosting, or I'm looking for social media management, or I'm looking for marketing, and here's my budget, so that I can choose if I'm going to purchase that lead from Bark or not. The problem is that they're not exclusive leads. So 1,000 people just bought that lead, or 100 people, whatever it is. I have no idea how many people actually bought that lead. But then it's our job to reach out to them as quickly as possible and try to convert that lead into a sale. And it is generally a less expensive way to get a lead in your funnel than it is to advertise, right? Because and it's a tit for tat. It's very transactional. Here's somebody that's looking for my service. I can pay $30 and I have that lead. Sometimes it's 15, but that's probably not a good lead.
It just depends on the product, right?
Whereas if you're advertising to get those leads, then you have to know what your cost per acquisition is, how much, what you pay for the lead. Now, I tend to feel like an ad to get a lead is a better way to do it, because you're building some of that branding in with it than if you buy a lead from Bark, or we have a couple of attorneys that we deal with that have these attorney websites that they buy leads from. If you buy those leads from those places, that end user doesn't know who you are yet. Right. And if you've ever filled out a form online for a mortgage, it's miserable, right? You get bombarded instantly.
Right. Now your inbox is full of stuff, junk.
Right.
Getting phone calls all the time now.
Yeah. So the buying leads can work very well. I think it's something you need to have in your tool belt. But so that's buying leads. And then organic reach is what Brian and I have been doing the past couple of weeks, and what a lot of consultants and service providers and managed service providers have been doing is we're consistently always creating new content and creating value for you, our users, right? And what we've kind of figured out is that if we create value with our content on a regular basis and we just give it away for free, then if somebody wants our services, and they come to us, and it's a much nicer way to sell products and services. So we can just constantly be talking about the things that we love to talk about, having a lot of fun, creating fun content. And instead of, Brian having this big list of leads that he has to cold call to get some leads in, we have people emailing or calling us. So it's a very nice transition to go from the old way where you're hunting all the time, trying to find this, to where you're creating an atmosphere of education and trust.
A community.
And create a community, right?
Community.
It is harder. It's a longer outcome. It takes longer to get to the outcome, but I think long term, it's definitely worth it. And you shouldn't stop doing the other thing you're doing if it's working.
Right.
You should add on always.
Right. Multiple ways, right? It's the theme. And the piggyback on that, I think that something that neither one of us really like thought about when we first started the journey of really diving elbow deep into the organic reach is that it's kind of fun.
It is a lot of fun for me. I mean, I was a film major, right, in college. So I went into IT because I'm like, well, I can work in film, but I'll never make a living, right? I mean, it became very obvious really quickly to make a living.
Your own dream before you even got
right. It was going to be very challenging to make a living in film. Whereas I knew I could go into IT and work on websites in '99 and just not have to think about it too hard, right? I could do really good and landed some giant clients right out of the gate and move forward. So I never really thought about film again until probably about 2 years ago when I started getting back into the hobby with and it's not film anymore, it's all video, but a lot of the same principles apply that come over. So
one of the things that really came up with me, I think we'll dive into our questions. I just want to mention this point really quickly, is that doing this organic content building and creating value for people, what's really popped up for me is sharpening the saw.
Yes.
Right? Like, I mean, we learn so much stuff throughout our day, throughout our journey, doing all the things that we're doing, going back and kind of breaking things down on I hate to say layman's terms, but really layman's terms, and then just really just diving deep into it. It's like, wow, I completely forgot about that.
So something I learned in school when I was in film school, and I not even in film school, before I was in film school, I was in journalism school and I transferred. One of the things that we talked about a lot was learn, do, teach. And I think I lost that for a long time. I would just learn and do, learn and do, learn and do, learn and do. And I gave up on the learn, do, teach, that last piece. So I think it's a lot of fun now to, do the learn, do the do, and then now use all these different social media platforms to do the teaching.
Right? And people are asking me questions now, so I'm engaging with people, going back and forth, and creating relationships, right? And that's what it's all about. That's the whole point of the organic reach, is building that relationship with then strangers, right? When they become a part of your community, so you kind of know them a little bit.
And I guess the two biggest examples of organic reach I can think of, or what I kind of in my head go to, is Bob Vila and Bob Ross, right? You can't buy a Bob Ross painting, right?
Yeah.
And Bob Vila, he would build homes and stuff like that, but he was highly sought after and very.
He knew his stuff, and people
right? He knew his stuff, and so he gave away all his tips and tricks for no charge, right? He just constantly, always was building. I'm sure he got paid from the networks to do that. But those guys early on with only one platform, right? TV, they knocked it out of the park and became, if you think about household paintings today, Bob Ross is it. If you think about building a house or somebody doing how-tos, it's Bob Vila, right?
Right. It has to be somewhere in the conversation.
Yeah.
All right. So diving into our first question here. This question is by Kelvin. Does buying leads still work in 2020?
I think it's industry specific, right? So buying leads in 2020 is going to be a little trickier because all the automation that's out there. So if you're going to buy leads in 2020, what I have to tell you is that be prepared to be hyper fast. So I said it earlier, if you filled out on any form online to get a home mortgage, yes, you're getting bombarded instantly by 10 or 15 different offers. So if you're in an industry that isn't that automated yet, I would say hands down, run for buying leads because it's not oversaturated yet. But if I was in the mortgage industry, I think I'd be looking for other tactics right now because I just get hit so hard every time. And I don't look for a mortgage that often, but once every 5 years, I go and shop mortgages. But I've made that mistake. Medical insurance is another one that I would just stay away from, right? Just because
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because my first real experience with having buying leads was in insurance.
Okay. You did a lot of that then.
Yeah, but what I found more value in wasn't buying the leads; it was live transfers. So instead of me having to call back that person within that 5-minute time frame, they were on the phone with them and they sent them right over to me.
Okay.
And now you talk about reaction time, right? It's fresh on their mind. They just answered the questions. They just said yes, right?
So if you can get a service like that, I would say absolutely go for it, right? Because then you're going to field a call just like it came in organically almost.
Right. And yeah, it basically it feels very organic, right? Because it's like, okay, you have a problem, I can get someone to talk to you right now about that problem.
Right.
The only, not say the only, but one of the things that you have to be worried about with that is that it is very expensive.
Like so how much per lead?
Oh man, some of those leads are like $55, $65 a lead.
Okay. I don't think 55 or 65 a lead is really expensive at the end of the day. I think it's on the high side. I know in the hosting industry, which is one of the most competitive industries on the planet, right? Because if you don't own your own data center, it's got a very low cost of entry, low barriers to entry. So, and with today's technology, it's not hard to start a hosting company. It's hard to start a good hosting company, but to start a hosting company that just runs, right, and have 50 to 100 websites isn't that challenging. When you get 1,000 or 100,000, it's a lot different. You're running 24/7. So, for hosting, we spend about up to $120 per lead to get a client in. Yeah.
At that time frame, which was some years ago.
Today, right? and we don't, because hosting today, GoDaddy sells hosting for $3. So buying leads for hosting isn't there anymore. But buying leads for some of our other services like review management or social media management or full digital agency or co-location, right? We still have a couple partners that we buy leads for co-location, and those leads are wildly expensive. We pay 10% recurring on the deal for those leads if we get them.
Dang.
Right? So if you figure co-location, if you don't know what co-location is, it's you have a bunch of servers, you put them in our data center, and we host them, we put them on the generator, we have hands and feet that reboot your servers and stuff like that. The average ticket item is $1,000 a month. So we pay $100, and it's a 3-year contract, it's a $36,000 deal. We pay $100 a month, $3,600 for that lead.
So yeah, that is much more expensive than $65 one.
So I think it depends on what your product is, right? I have one of my wife's cousins. He sells leads for real estate agents, right? And he does a pretty decent job doing that. And so I think if you're gonna buy leads in today's market, you should only really consider it if you're buying a lead from a niche provider that provides leads for your specific market.
That's a great tip.
Right? Whereas Bark is kind of...
It's all over the place.
It's all over the place. It's for plumbers. It's for...
architects, engineers, construction people. It's all over the place.
So if you're a construction person, Angie's List all day long. If you're an attorney, attorneys.com all day long, right? So...
that's a great tip.
I think that's where I would probably end up narrowing down to. For co-location, we use, I think it's colocation.com, right, that we use and to buy those leads from. So,
and another thing now, thinking about it, to really make buying leads work in today's market, and you touched on it earlier, you have to contact them within 5 minutes. I mean, the research shows that if you talk to them within the first minute, you increase your chances of closing that deal by 391%.
Right. And you're 10 times more likely to close the deal if you get a hold of them in the first minute from the time they fill out the form. Right? They're currently engaged. Their brain is currently thinking about that. And 5 minutes later, man, in my world, I could have an employee come in and have a problem with another employee, or I could have one of my kids come in and have problems with schoolwork, or
your phone go off and now you have an email. Or
an email, a server can crash, anything can happen, right? So getting them at that exact moment is vital.
And then the next part too, to make sure that it will work for you, is that you have to nurture that lead. You can't just call them one time and just say, all right, it's done. Like, you have to continuously call them and follow up, because just like you said, stuff happens, right? There could be other emergencies that pop up in that person's mind. So if you don't talk to them on a regular basis, we recommend 12 to 13 times in the first 30 days.
Right. So the average client purchases from a company, they need to hear from them or see their name 8 to 12 times before they'll make a purchase. So we call it 13 and 30. It's a program that I designed, and it's basically call, text, and email every 3 days for 30 days, right? And what you're looking for is exhausting the lead. And I've had a lot of sales reps in my career say, oh, that lead's no good. And then later we end up closing the deal. Well, what I find out is that the sales reps are calling them 1 or 2 times, right? And they just want fresh leads. They don't want to put in the work. So it's not a good habit to call a lead 2 or 3 times. With tools like Less Annoying CRM, $10 a user to track all of your leads, there's no excuse for not following up with those leads and putting a system in place that's consistent
to follow
up with them, right? And I would recommend not using your calendar. I would use a system that has a next action or tasks built into it. Right. Some of your calendars have tasks built into them. I've not found one that works really well for me. I know a lot of people use Salesforce and HubSpot.
I was a fan of Blitz.
Blitz, okay.
I like Blitz.
I don't like being cheap all the time, but I hate paying for software. I've not found a great open source CRM that I like for lead management. So I tend to use lessannoyingcrm.com more frequently because it's simple, it's very easy to use, and it's $10 a user. So
when I was first doing this, I didn't even have a CRM. So I just created an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, Brian's great with these Excel spreadsheets.
Yeah. I just move them along. I have one for the first call, one for the second call, and then follow up, and I just move them down this list. Right. And then I have my one where the closed deals are potential or the pendings, and I color coordinate it and just move all the way down it. So I mean, you don't have to go get some software, right? But software will definitely make it easier.
It'll make it a lot easier than the Excel spreadsheets. That gets a little frustrating. Although with Google Sheets now,
you can do a lot of stuff.
It's pretty nice, right?
Access it almost anywhere. I mean, it gives you a lot of flexibility and control, really. Of
you think we could put together a Google Sheet and share it of a basic fundamentals of a pipeline for folks?
I can do that.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. We'll put it in the downloads somewhere.
All right.
So we'll have a Google Sheet that you can download and just kind of walk you through the steps. So you'll have a tool that's free. It's not going to be the best tool on the planet,
but it can get you started.
But it can get you started and following up with your leads. Yeah. So I learned this at Tidal because I was guilty of the same thing previously in my life of, if I can't close the deal on the first call, then they were just kicking tires, or I was a second bid boy. I used to say that a lot. They were just looking to get a second bid so that they could, because their boss makes them get 3 bids. They had their vendor. I used all those excuses. And when we bought Tidal, they're a fitness franchise is all about the sales and the numbers because it's a high turnover, right? And I didn't quite understand what exhausted leads were. And exhausted leads still aren't totally exhausted, right? Because you can nurture them over the next couple of years and keep inboxes. Right. But an exhausted lead is when the client tells you to stop calling them or stop texting them, or they opt out of your message.
Right. They tell you to piss off.
Right. It is not. It is not. I tried to call them 3 times and they didn't answer. That's not an exhausted lead, right? That is a busy person living in a world where his phone rings all the time or her phone rings all the time. They're getting thousands of emails a week. 3 calls that they didn't answer is not an exhausted lead. A person that said, I am not interested in your product or service, or I don't want to talk to you right now. I'm not right now. I don't want to talk to you about that product anymore. That is an exhausted lead. And until they've told you no,
they're still a lead.
They're still a lead. So you keep working them until you get the no, or you've reached out to them 13 times in 30 days, and then you go to every other week or once a month in your email drip campaign that's going out on a regular basis, right? So hopefully you can get them re-engaged and do the same product later, or maybe one of your other product lines that you can get them back into the funnel with and continue nurturing that person. So
and it's not just phone call. You got to go back and forth. It could be text. It could be a phone call. It could be an email.
Right.
It could be a few different other ways. It could be a
we can text, voicemail, and email nonstop. Those are the mains. But I would not discount at all. I would not discount Facebook Messenger, Instagram Messenger, and those other forms. I think over the next 5 to 10 years, we'll see platform messaging pick up. I've had some really good luck with LinkedIn, following up people on LinkedIn, right?
I've had my most love for social media when it comes to Facebook. Facebook's probably my biggest.
Facebook's a big one.
It is. I mean, everybody's there.
Everybody's there. Yes.
I remember when it was just for college kids, but now, my aunt and uncle, grandparents have Facebook.
If you're running a business right now and you think your customers aren't on Facebook, you are absolutely wrong. They are. most of the people on the planet are on Facebook.
You're just being foolish.
Or most people on the internet are on Facebook.
Most people alive. I mean, like, it's an app on my phone. I didn't have to download it. I got my phone and it was already there. Like that's how. No, it's like it was there right next to the calculator in the calendar.
Right. Facebook is the new Yellow Pages, or it's almost replacing your phone number in a lot of cases.
Yeah, it really does.
There's a lot of people in my life that I don't know their phone number, and I just communicate them with Facebook.
Right. There's a lot of people I talk to like that. Some of the people I ride with for my motorcycle groups, I talk to them all on Facebook. I don't know very many of their phone numbers. Or some of them, I don't even know their real name. I know whatever name they picked on Facebook.
Now, I will say what I do like about what Facebook knocked out of the park, which no other social platform was able to do before Facebook, was that they removed anonymity. So prior to Facebook, you weren't supposed to ever use your real name on the internet. Right?
I didn't really think about that.
So even MySpace and all those other guys, right? Every platform before Facebook, you did not use your real name. Like if you even go back into the early O's on the news, and you would have, the news broadcasters giving you advice on how to use the internet. They'd always say, use a fake name, use a handle. Right? And that was common practice. So you were hiding yourself because being on the internet was still taboo. Right? So if you're
considered as like a dirty thing, right?
If you're running a business, you've been running a business for a long time, and you still have that mindset, I promise you're wrong. Get out of your shell and get out there.
This is an Elsa moment. Just let it go. Let it go. So I hope that answered your question, Kelvin. Appreciate you putting more work on my calendar for tomorrow. All right, but we're going to move on to the next question. All right, so how do you get more lead generation from organic marketing? And this is by Manassi. I hope I pronounced your name right, Manassi.
Right. So, and this is a huge challenge, right? Specifically, it's not as big of an issue if you're bootstrapping than if you're a private equity fund. So if you have investors investing into your company, they're looking for non-objective statistics, right? So they want to say, okay, I paid $30 for a lead. I have 10 leads. I paid $300 for those 10 leads. If I can close 2 of them at $100 a month, that's $200 a month. And I get my money back in 1.5 months.
Qualitative.
Right? It's not subjective at all. Whereas if you go the other path and you're going to do organic reach, it becomes very subjective because you don't necessarily know. You don't have a transactional or a tit for tat world. Right. So I'll give you one example of my what I believe was my hands down best organic content that I've ever had. This goes back to probably 1999, 2000.
Oh, we're going back.
Right? And I wrote an article and I published it, and it was how to install FFmpeg on CentOS 3. Wildly specific.
Right. I don't know anything about it.
Right. So CentOS is a server operating system. FFmpeg is a way to show videos or to stream videos from that web server. And I literally I remember spending about 4 months teaching myself how to install it, right? Because on Linux and CentOS 3, you didn't have a whole lot of auto installers like a .exe that you could click. And if you're a Linux nerd, then it's Yum. And I don't think if you're a Linux nerd, if you're just a Linux user, you know what Yum is. Now, Yum install FFmpeg is really easy, but then you had to compile it by hand, and there was a couple hundred different modules that you had to compile first, right? So,
Jesus.
And I remember it just took me forever to do it, and I documented the entire process because I knew that once I figured it out, I had to do this on a bunch of different servers because I had a bunch of servers that were streaming, and at the time we were working on how to stream Team Asana, right? And I have my trophy over there, but it was the X Prize. We were streaming that, and it took me forever to figure out how to get it to work. And I got it to work by document, and then I published that document on how to do it. And
that's awesome.
Well, what I didn't even realize, one of our largest clients today, still today, 20 years later, came from that article because he called me and was like, "Hey, I have a couple servers that need this. Will you just install it for me?" I was like, "Sure." And he sent us like maybe 5 or 6 servers. We installed them, put it in the racks, and that client today has 30 racks of servers. So about about 5,000 servers he has hosted with us today.
That's awesome.
And it all comes from that one article that I wrote because I was having a hard time doing it. And I really just documented it for myself. Yeah. And I'm like, well, shoot, I might as well share this with other people. Not even, at the time, not even thinking about what I was doing, right? And then I know that I've gotten
that's crazy.
One giant client from that, but I've also gotten a handful of other clients over the years from that too. Now that article is not relevant anymore, but that's okay, right? I get the fruits of that labor.
Right. Well, that's one of the really good things about organic content is that you put the content out there. For the most part, it's going to be there. It's not going to disappear. Someone's going to, copy it, share it, repost it. It's going to go on all these other different social media platforms.
Right.
The sponsor's going to hold that information. And you never know what's going to show up.
So the organic content, I think you have to understand that it's any kind of content. It can be written word, it can be a video, it can be a podcast.
It could be a graphic.
Right. I mean, we're doing a podcast right now, but we're videotaping it, right? So
right.
We'll have a 1 hour long video, and we'll have the audio for the audio players, for the audio listeners. So when you're creating this content, it doesn't have to be on one platform, right? It can be infographics, it can be cartoons, it can be any kind of thing that you want. It could be a song, right? I mean, the ABCs is a song to teach kids how to sing the ABCs.
There's a lot of songs with ABCs going around now. TikTok
right.
Videos, people teaching their kids and dancing. And
oh, really? I haven't seen any of those.
It's hilarious. It's hilarious.
Awesome.
But to answer your question more directly, I know there's a lot of subjectiveness in that answer. But to be more direct, some things that you must have if you want to just get good organic reach is that, for one, you got to be yourself.
Yeah.
You got to be authentic. People smell that out a mile away, and nobody wants it. In the world of all the fake things, people are craving for some realness. So the first thing you want to make sure you're doing is that you got to be yourself. So whatever thing you have to let go to be able to be yourself, whatever anxiety you have to push to the side, push it to the side. And then another good thing for you to do is to make sure that you understand your audience. Because you need to know where your audience is located at. The time frames are on there, the things that they like, the things they don't like. You need to know, and what I mean by things they don't do and don't like, as far as what they like to eat, what they like to drink, what cars do they drive, what place they like to go hang out at. Do they, go to the gym, or do they watch TV? Or
why is that important?
Those are all important because you need to understand the avatar of your client and get like your client or your ideal client. And if you don't know who they are, there's no way you can really help them. Or help them, you can't meaningfully help them. Right? I mean, there may be some things you can do, but if you don't know who you're talking to, you don't know the journey and path they're on. Right. And it can change everything.
To me, it's more about you don't know how to get in front of them if you don't know who they are.
Yes.
Right. It's important to know who they are. I think some things, and I do a lot of motivational and business talk, right, on my TikTok and my Instagram and stuff, but at the end of the day, I own a gym and I do web hosting, and today's stuff is about web hosting, hosted by Hosterian. But I don't hardly ever talk about web hosting in any of my content. I do some how-tos and things like that, but most of my content is business tips and tricks. It's not about hosting, because my users that buy hosting, they don't think about hosting unless they have a hosting problem, right? So I can buy leads from people that have hosting problems, and that's one way to do it.
Right.
Or I can build trust and let them know that, hey, we're real people that care about you and your business, and if you use our services, you'll be dealing with me or people on my team, right? So I think it's important to understand that even though knowing who your target audience is, so you can help them, you can talk to them about things that they're interested in that aren't necessarily your product.
Right.
And I think the holy grail on organic content is if you can teach somebody how to not use your service, then you've got a pretty good shot at winning their business. So
absolutely. Well, all things equal, people buy from friends.
Yeah,
and that's something a friend would say.
Right.
I'm not gonna help you do it, but I can tell you where to go, man.
Right. I had a call the other day. A guy was hosting at Wix, right? And he called me and he had a very specific question about how to do something. And I was like, well, this is how you can do it at Wix, right? I'm not going to tell you have to move to me to do it. And I gave him the quick tip, and he's like, okay, great, but I'm definitely moving over to you anyway, right?
Yeah.
And while we're talking about Wix, time out. If you're using Wix, go to the bottom. All of the social media contacts aren't linking to yours by default. They're linking to Wix. Update that shit and don't give Wix the free traffic. Get it for yourself.
Oh my god!
Like I hate seeing.
How many times that's happened this year, man? It's been ridiculous.
It's so horrible, and I hate that Wix does that to people. But yeah, if you have a Wix site, you scroll to the bottom. All the social media icons that you think they're yours, they're linking to your social media. They're not. They're linking to Wix's Facebook. They're linking to Wix's Instagram.
Well, what's crazy, it's not really Wix doing it. It's really just the users not really knowing how to build a website and not going through it.
I think Wix is doing a little bit.
I mean, it's easily go in there and change. They're not blocking you from
They're
it.
not keeping you from changing it, but
Most
definitely
the
default is theirs.
Yeah.
Right?
What else would it be, right? I mean, I wouldn't send you some other place. I'm gonna make sure it's me until you change it.
Yeah.
I am default.
Just a quick tip, and you should do that for sure, because you should get the benefit of you're driving traffic to your webpage. You should get the benefit on all your social media platforms as well.
Yes, that's huge. Or if you don't want to build it yourself, or you don't want to pull your own teeth because you're not a dentist, you can talk to someone that will do it for you.
Right.
Right. So like we kind of talk about your TikTok, like don't do the things that you don't know how or don't want to do.
Right. And I would say for that kind of stuff, Fiverr's a great resource. I mean, we would do the work for you too, but we're going to charge you more than Fiverr would. It's not really, it's in our wheelhouse, but it's not our forte. We want to work on websites that we host. So
right.
Definitely get somebody on Fiverr to log into your Squarespace or your Wix and update that stuff and
outsource
and get that traffic back to your mediums.
Next question we have here is, what is your best lead generation strategy to get more digital marketing clients?
Best lead strategy
by Alex.
To get more digital marketing clients. That's a tough one, right? The digital marketing, and this is part of what we do. Digital marketing clients are highly sought after. It's great work. If you know what you're doing, you can automate a lot of it. It's a lot of teaching clients how to do things and giving them software to let them do them efficiently at. So my best strategy, wow, that's a tough one. Digital marketing clients, I would say I'd have a couple of those, right? So you're looking for people that need digital marketing. Right. So I would start with creating some kind of asset like, it would be the social media calendar. So I would create a social media calendar branded by Hosterian, and I would make a Facebook ad that said, download this free social media calendar. Once they downloaded that, I would have them type in their email and address and phone number. And what we're transitioning to now is I would say, fill out this form and I will text you the link to download the social media calendar.
Right.
And once they fill that out, they would get a text message from us with the download to get that. But now we've got that potential person that we know that they have an interest in managing social media.
Right.
Right. So, and when you're managing social media, there's some things that the company can automate, and there's some things that need to be organic, right? So
if you automate it, it's just gonna be bad for your
brand. Right. So at Hosterian, we automate a fair amount of it, right? We call it kind of the meat and potatoes stuff. So, we guarantee that we're gonna have 2 articles go out every single week, and those articles are gonna go out, and that's automated, right? Brian spends an hour a month, basically. Brian and Abby, they go through and like, okay, these are the articles and the memes that we're gonna post kind of systematically throughout the month. For the next month, and those are holiday posts, some special offers,
or maybe just new tech stuff that happens.
New tech stuff, yeah. And then there's in-house content that we have that is very, very unique and specific to us, and that stuff you can't automate, right? You can't automate jumping on the camera and telling your customers about a new product or giving them tips and tricks. It's just not something you can't. I guess you can. Ping Jun has a lot of books on how to automate the content. His recommendation would be to sit in a room and make videos for the whole day and do nothing else and then chop those up. For us, making that content is the podcast, right? This is a great way to create content. We get to create a whole bunch of value in 1 hour, and each one of these questions can be cut up into individual content.
Right.
So that kind of stuff can't be automated. It's real work. It has to be done. So I would start with a social media calendar and create a Facebook ad, a swipe up ad on Instagram to download that. If I had a good Instagram page, and then I would also take advantage of TikTok right now has depending on which ad you see, $300 to $2,300 in free advertising spend, which is something that we're diving into right now. To learn more about how to get the TikTok ads. And I have to admit, I am an amazing TikTok user. I can scroll as good as anybody on the whole planet.
Got fast thumbs, man.
I'm becoming, I think, a mediocre content creator on TikTok.
I mean, you're still entertaining, man. So I watched the whole thing.
Yeah. So I enjoy doing it, but I don't know much about their ads right now. Right. The other thing I would do if I wanted to sell digital marketing, I would become the best digital marketer in a 5-mile radius of my business. And I would focus on making sure that I had the best partners, the best tools, the best outsourcing. And I would do everything I could to be the best, biggest digital provider I could in 5 square miles. And I think if you do a quick lookup at how many businesses over 20 million revenue or within 5 square miles of your business, of your current address, you'd be wildly surprised at how many there are.
Absolutely.
So crush it there locally and then spread out from there.
Yeah, and those are really good tips. All very powerful stuff. I also want to add on to it.
Okay.
Because one of the things I think, if you're going to be, if you're trying to get more lead generation for organic marketing, I would say that you have to make a commitment to being socially active. And what I mean by that is that you have
social media active or socially active?
Both.
Okay.
Both. You need to be out in front of people. And when you're out in front of people, you have to make commitment to also giving value, right? Because just like you said, people are getting just bombarded with all these people saying, oh, I can get you first page of Google, I can do SEO, I can do this, I can do that. And what happens is they get screwed over.
Yes.
So people get buyer's remorse and they get nervous for the next person to come along. It makes it harder for the next person to come along. So how you break through that barrier is not be like those guys. So just help. Offer advice and offer value. Put that a part of your social media strategy. Put that part as your content. Make that part of your commitment is just to help people. Even if that means you're not the right fit for them.
Right.
Even if that means you got to turn that client down and say, listen, we may not be the best fit for you. Right? And that's okay.
Well, so this is totally just a little anecdote. We spend a decent amount of money on creating content and creating ads and advertising stuff. And I would say over the past 30 days, 100% of Brian's sales that he's closed have come from a social media post that he did. And not one of the other, not the meat and potato ones about the infographics and the industry news, right, but the specific tips and tricks that he's been giving, right?
Right.
My wife and I own the title, and we get clients. We have some killer ads, and I'll give you the tip that I use there after this, and we'll talk just a little bit about ads. We have one ad that's just crushing it right now, another ad that's doing okay. But the place that they come from is all of the trainers go live before their classes, say, hey, there's many people in my class. I got 2 open spots. If you can make it here, come and join the class. That's where the majority of new clients are coming from, not the ads. So it takes a culture change to get people to do that stuff.
Right.
But it really does work. And if you open up these things to your staff and let your staff kind of run with the social media, give them guidelines, right? Because they'll do some crazy stuff all on their own, right? So you got to nurture them, and you got to try to keep an eye on them a little bit. But let your employees and your staff kind of run with some things and see what happens, because you just never know.
I mean, that's a perfect example of what I meant by being making a commitment to social media, making a commitment to your branding and getting out there socially. Let the world know what you're doing and how you want to help people to do it.
Right.
And if you stand at the mountaintop and you shout that out, some people are going to hear you.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the more you do it, the more the right people are going to start hearing you. And what I mean by right, the people that want to be your client. And then then you have to take you have to measure those results. See, what do people like? What don't they like? And then you kind of tweak yourself to go towards what people are like. And next thing you know, you're going to have a huge following.
I don't care what business you're in or what industry you're in. If you're not doing it, one of your competitors is going to start.
Period.
And they're going to clean your clock, man. I promise you, because people buy from people they know. And if they're seeing somebody all the time, they're going to feel like they know that person and they're going to engage with them. And they'll probably buy from that other person, right? We take a lot of time and care to make sure that we answer all of our posts, that we heart all the people that comment, that we wave back to everybody that follows us. And now I've got, I'm approaching 3,800 followers on TikTok, so hitting those buttons on wave back is getting a little tedious, but I do it. And now I have, it's really cool. I have specific people that follow and like and comment on every single video, right? So
fan base.
I know that whenever they need a service or product, they're going to come to us, right? It's just no doubt about it.
And that was how those last deals that I had closed, that's how they came about. I did a challenge where I did 30 posts in 30 days.
Right.
So I was constantly getting in front of people, and I was just offering some tips, some things that I knew that would help people. I'm like, try this out. If you have a question, hit me up. And people hit me up. Yeah. Like they had some questions.
Absolutely.
Right. So hopefully that answered your question. Who was that by? Alice.
So I did promise a tip.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll go ahead and give that tip now. Inside Facebook, there is a demographic called upcoming birthdays. So if you have a product or service where you can give a trial to, if it's 2 weeks, 1 week, if you're a pizza joint, it can be a free soda with an order, whatever. But basically take a picture of, if you're going after girls, then use a Brad Cooper picture or whatever and say, hey girl, I see your birthday's coming up. If you come into my pizza shop next week, I'll hook you up with an extra topping or, a pitcher of beer, or not for the ladies, but maybe a bottle of wine, right? And come on in. If you're marketing.
Some women drink beer.
Right. If I was Hooters, I would be always nonstop having an ad out in front of every guy on the planet 2 weeks before his birthday. Yeah. Hey, come into Hooters and I'll buy you a beer, right? And have my local Hooters girl on that. So don't underestimate the power of advertising to somebody right before their birthday. And it's so great because in so many other ads, especially in a small geographical area, they start seeing the same ad over and over and over and over because you're kind of just bombarding it, right? It's the same billboard as it is on Facebook, and it's on Instagram, it's on TikTok.
It's familiar.
So it's familiar, but with the Facebook and the birthdays, you always have a new audience that's looking at it, and it engages them very quickly. Right. So,
most people are really happy on their birthday, and there are some people that are mad, but right. I don't know anyone that's mad to get free stuff because it's their birthday.
And everybody's got some kind of thing that they can give away, right? Denny's has been doing free breakfast on your birthday since I was a little kid. So it's a great, easy way to get cheap leads, and it's a fantastic ad that it hands down works.
In front of people, right? In a fun, cool way, right? Not a harassing way at all. A super friendly, super helpful, creating complete value. Sub-Zero, they do a bottle of vodka on your birthday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Sub-Zero bar or Sub-Zero the cryotherapy place?
The bar.
Okay.
Oh, I forgot that. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. We live in St. Louis, and there's two different Sub-Zeros. There's a Sub-Zero bar, and there's a Sub-Zero cryotherapy. Yes. Both of them I highly enjoy. So.
Yeah. So that's a great tip. If you have any questions about setting that up, reach out to us. We can help you out. Yeah. Or if you want to go for it. Knock it out, right? See if it works for you. You have questions?
Actually, I think I have a video of showing exactly how to do it.
Oh.
Don't we? I think we do.
I don't.
If we do, we'll publish it and link to it in this.
Okay.
If I do have the video, we'll put it on our YouTube channel, and we'll put the link to the video on how to set up the birthday ad in the comments.
Perfect.
Right.
Perfect. We can do that for you.
Cool. Awesome.
Okay. So moving along here, next question. We have. How did you get your first 10 clients to your digital marketing agency? By David.
So that's directed to us. So the first 10, how did we get them?
I feel like my first 4 was organically, actually. It was in my natural market. People on Facebook or people in my circle on Instagram, right. And just like posting, talking about it, and people were asking questions.
Well, I think for the company, and that's for Brian was organic. I think for the company, our first couple clients were from our customer base, because we're a hosting company and we had thousands of clients to begin with.
Right.
But then when we started doing digital marketing, we were looking at ways to add digital product lines to our product suite, because the hosting industry is slowed down a lot, right? I mean, there's still a lot of websites going online every day, but our competition is really, really tough. And the price of hosting is anywhere between $1 and $20,000, right? So it's very subjective on the pricing. So we created a done for you website where we, white glove service through the whole thing, but it's highly affordable. And with that, we coupled our digital marketing stuff. And the majority of our digital marketing stuff is tools that you can use, very affordable tools that you can use to do it yourself, or we'll do it for you. And we kind of do both ways. But our first 10 clients, I think, probably came from existing clients and other services.
Got it.
Right? And so if you have a company and you're offering a new service, I think number one tip is you have to take that service to your existing base, right? You should always be looking for ways to grow revenue without growing your base, right? And without taking advantage of your base, right? So making sure that you're creating a value for your base, because Brian will tell you, if you ever ask him about how protective I am of our customer base, I'm like a mama bear. Man.
Yeah.
It's like a sales rep comes up and like, hey, can I get a list of the customers? Like, no, no. What do you want to do? Like, let's talk about it. How do you want to do it? And then we create a plan on how we communicate to those clients, right? So do it with caution, do it with care, do it with intent, and do it with value-minded first, and you can be successful. But
absolutely.
So then take that away, right? If I was starting a brand new agency tomorrow, how would I do it?
I think in a brand new agency, for one, you would have to make that commitment to social media marketing. And what I mean by that is you have to put out some organic content, because if you're brand new, people are going to be looking for reviews. They're going to try to Google you, look you up. If they don't see anything, it's going to destroy your credibility before you can get an opportunity to even talk about it.
Right. I think if you're just starting to, you can't discount friends and family.
Oh yeah.
Right. Look, your current kind of system. LinkedIn would be a great source for that.
So I would put out the content, and then I would hit up my friends and family, because I need them to see and know I'm serious too.
Right.
Because your friends and family, they have whatever vision in their mind of who you were when you were like 13. That's who you are to them a lot of times, and it's hard to break that stigma. And sometimes social media can help you break that stigma, because they see you in a different light.
And going to the local chamber of commerce and stuff, I don't think it's a great way to do that, right? Because there's 7 guys there that do it.
It's hard, depending on your industry. I mean, if it's a saturated, like when I was doing insurance, it was so hard to get in one, because there's always an insurance guy in there. Right. And then I'm like, okay, part of the reason why I switched over to health insurance from property and casualty, which is like auto and home, is not very many people did it.
Right. So like we do a couple BNIs, and I think we don't do them as digital marketing agencies. We do it as hosting providers, because there's 4 other digital agency providers that are there already, right? So if you're hiring a digital agency, I would recommend really looking at how long they've been in business, and is it a fly-by-night firm? What software are they using? Do they create the software? Are they outsourcing it? Those kinds of things as well, because digital marketing it's still the Wild West, right? It's all over the board. Yeah. And some guys are doing it really well. Some guys will just take your money and run.
Right.
Right. And so be careful when you're hiring those guys. I know that we are part of a couple that we like. Billy Jean is marketing, right? I know that he says he's retiring, but I was in his webinar this morning. He has great tactics that he does. And we're part of his ad advantage, right? So we don't pay them to do ads for us, but we definitely pay for the community, so we can ask for tips and tricks. And there's 80,000 different marketers in there that are all in the same community. So if we're struggling with something, we have somebody to ask.
So that's another thing I would say then. Find some like-minded people that you can talk to and bounce some ideas off. Because if you're, very first starting off and you're fresh in, there's a lot of stuff that you don't know.
Right.
Right. And things that could be huge, right? So people in the industry are like, oh, yeah, if you don't do that, you're not going anywhere.
I think my next bit of advice for if you were going to start a digital agency firm today would be really focus on find something that you really enjoy doing. So if you really enjoy softball and baseball, I would niche down to that. And I would go to localmeetup.com as a great resource for local meetings. And I wouldn't go to the technology meetings or the social marketing meetings, but I would go to the softball meetings and the baseball card trading meetings and introduce yourself to all of those people and then run businesses. Mm-hmm. And because you have a common interest, you can talk their language and you can take the things that you love doing and do it, do social media for the things that you love doing, right? So if it's baseball and softball, I would niche down to become a social digital agency for softball teams or softball leagues or sports training kind of facilities, right? Yeah. I would stay away from the gyms. They're wildly saturated in that market. Mm-hmm. But I think if you can find creative ways to do it, if you're really into photography, right, I would try to be the social media marketing company for photographers.
I mean, right? That's a great tip. I mean, if you like what you're doing, it doesn't feel like work anymore. Right. And then time becomes timeless. Then you forget how many hours you put into it. Then you're willing to dig deeper to learn things that you don't know. Right. Yeah. It makes you want to actually do it, and people feel that, right? Because then what that's going to do is going to make you be more genuine.
Right. So, like for example, we provide services to all kinds of companies. From Bear is our largest client. We do their email for one of their outsourced providers. So we have like 1,500 emails that we host for them, all the way down to the small local pipe shop, right? So and everything in between, and a lot of startups. We're big in the startup community. But I'll tell you what, we do all the social media marketing for a local pizza shop, and I'm not allowed to talk about who they are. But they're a local pizza franchise, and I love going to those meetings, right? Because I get to go and we get to talk about what their next quarter plans are, and I get free pizza and beer, and we get to hang out, and it's a lot of fun. So, I mean, if you can figure out how to do that and work on the things that you like doing anyway, but do the social media marketing for them, I think it's a home run for you, right? And then you should be able to get 10 clients within a 100 square mile radius of where you live. And I mean, 10 digital marketing clients could support a person full time pretty easy, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, depending on what service you're doing for them and how much of that service. If you have
it doesn't feed our engine, but for a single guy, it very well could.
Absolutely.
And if you're that guy and you don't want to do it by yourself anymore, let us know, and maybe we can come work together.
Right. So you have to be open. Yeah. You have to be open. Opportunities happen all the time, and I forgot maybe it was Gary Vee. It was like, there's so many opportunities out there, but people are looking for the right opportunity. And the only opportunity that's right is the one that's right in front of your face. Yeah. That's the one that is right. You don't know how things.
It's the right now opportunity.
Yeah. Right. You don't know how it's going to be later. Right. It could be the one that changed the world for you. It could be a learning moment. Either way it goes, it still can be something very valuable for you. You've got to be ready for it. You have to be open to the idea that can't happen. You can't collapse the idea that it won't.
Yep.
Right.
Any other questions? We're approaching an hour now, I think.
Yeah, we started a few minutes late, so I figured we get a little over. But okay. That's our last question. I want to wrap up with an anecdote, right? Wrapping up our conversation here about buying leads versus organic reach. And at the end of the day, I think what really kind of to sum it all up is that you have to kind of do both. You really can't.
Not just both. You have to do those two things plus a lot more.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Those two things, and then do them both in different ways. So you really can't just pigeonhole yourself to think that there's one be all for everything, because there's nothing in life really like that. Right. You have to be open to learning new ways. You have to accept the fact that your way didn't work. Right. And
well, I'll make the caveat there that if you can figure out how to create an ad on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever, if you can create an ad that generates leads that costs less than what it costs you to buy leads, then you should dial back your purchasing leads. But I would say don't stop doing it, because you need to keep those muscles strong.
Right. If it's working, do the hell out of it. Right. If it's not, stop. Right. And do that sooner than later. I mean, give yourself some grace and give it some time, because you got to learn. Right. But
just because it didn't work yesterday doesn't mean it won't work tomorrow.
Right. Leads are just like sales; they up and flow. But the key is consistency. If you have more different channels that you're doing it on, it's going to provide more consistency for you. think we kind of saw and answered all that up.
Yeah.
So for our topic next week, I have a few different ones. I don't know which one I want to dive into.
Okay. What are they?
So the ones on here are hiring and using tech to hire.
Okay.
The secret to creating awesome content. Are reviews important? Why reply to reviews? Why do you need bad reviews? I kind of like that one.
I do too, but I think I would like to do something a little bit different next week and do the hiring and using technology for hiring.
Okay.
So if you're looking to hire people, we can share some of the tips and tricks that we have for getting new staff in, technical staff, sales staff, interns, ambassadors, right? So all of those different things. So I think we have all of those things. So
perfect
in our wheelhouse. So I think it would be a fun topic to talk about. That's different than the buying. That's talking about the customer journey, but more about the
business owner journey.
The business owner's journey. Because I've always thought that growing up, I'd always heard the customers first, and I've always been a boss because I'm a shitty employee. What I didn't realize when I became a boss and a manager, and I highly overestimated this for a long time, because I was still the customers first, but really it's your employees first, because if you treat your employees right, then they'll treat your clients right.
They'll break down walls.
And that's a different. It takes a mind shift to get there from when you're an independent shop and you're going through. Then now you have I think today I've got 30 or 40 employees total that are directly report to me. So
awesome. Yeah, so next week's topic will be hiring and using technology to hire. Okay.
If you have any questions for me or would like to talk, my text number is 314-370-2871. Tech guys, can you put that right here nice and big for me? Thank you so much. 370-2871, area code 314.
All right. And then if you want to talk to us as well for or any Hosterian for any type of technology question or this topic question, or maybe just have some help with something else we didn't mention yet, you can also text the 314-216-2040 and make sure you put that one up here in this general area. You can also email myself at brian.montgomery@hosterian.com.
Ken.cox, KEN.COX at Hosterian, HOSTIRIAN.com.
We're here for you. We want to help. It's weird that we enjoy.
This is a ton of fun. If you have any questions, or if you just you need some help with something,
let us know.
What do you need?
And if you have a topic you would like us to talk about, make sure you also let us know that as well. If you have questions, don't be afraid to email us those or text those. We will bring them up on the next time when it makes sense for us to do that. We got your back. We're here for you guys.
All right.
We're here.
Get to work.
Make it count.